Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I was interrupted. Um, where we are at from the last very short video was we're going to create this. And as I said, we're going to make the rectangular base. So starting at this corner, dragging out, we're going to create the rectangle. Um, I'm thinking about how we would like to model this, as I can know from the back of this rectangle that I just drew to the front is 3.5 inches, which marks the center of the circle. At that point, I'm going to take the center of the rectangle, the length side center, at the end at 3.5, which will mark this, and then we're going to drag out a 1.5 inch diameter circle, followed by another 1.37 inch radial circle. So as you can see, this is a radial dimension and this is a diametric dimension. So you would have to double this to compare the size differences between the two, or you'll have to have this. Okay, so 0.75 radius compared to a 1.37 radius if we were to talk about the radial equivalent of this 1.5 inch diameter. Alright, so at least now we have a mental idea of how we're going to model this. Let's do it. Alright, as I said, we're going to take that 3.5 inch measurement and we're going to have to create the depth measurements. Remember, we're looking down at the top of this. Okay, so this is almost like the front edge of the part. This is the back edge of the part looking at the top, right? So we need to know how deep we are going. And the depth measurements are 0.37 plus 1.25 plus 0.37. And rather than add those up in my head, I'm going to literally type them like that in the formula line for that dimension. So we're going to just type 0.37 plus plus 1.25 plus 0.37. Just like you would see, this is stacked dimensions. There's not an overall on the drawing here because they're expecting you to add these three up to get the overall. So we're just going to say OK. We're at 1.99 inches. I don't like that number, but that's the way the numbers have added up to be. Now we're going to draw a center line. Starting here, and you could have it extending outward. Remember, it's dotted, it's the center line, right? If it's solid, this is a chance to click on it, press delete on the keyboard, and create the proper line, which is center. Okay, let's draw our circles. So at this point, that is the center of our part. As you can see, 3.5 inches brings us directly to the center of this part. So let's trim that and draw the circle. So we have our circle. Come out. We actually have two circles from that same point, concentric relationship. Now we're going to smart dimension the outer diameter, and that's the one that has the radius on it. So we're going to do 1.37 times 2. Enter. Now we're going to put in the 1.5 inch diameter. 1.5. Now that we have our circle, you might have been wondering, I know I was at one moment creating this part, if I'm going out to 3.5, what's this measurement from here to here? Well, it's not called out. There's no measurement to it. It is automatically created at this intersection between the circle and this line. It's not needed to be called out because it can be created through the geometry that is called out. So we've created our base. Now we're going to use this operation we've not used before, I don't believe. It's called Smart Trim. And you're just going to click Trim Entities here. And it's actually called Power Trim. It's very similar to Smart Dimension, where it decides what you are going to do based on what you've clicked on. Or you don't have to think about corner, trim inside away, outside away, trim closest to. Power trim decides what you want based on what you're clicking. So it's a smart trim, basically. So as you can tell, the outside circle breaks here. So we're going to click in the gray and drag. This little gray line is going to indicate that we're going to trim there. We're going to trim this off. Okay, it's just a click and a drag. Okay, we're also going to click and drag away this. This may cause a dimension to go away, but that's okay. We're going to click and drag that away. I don't like that at all. We're going to hit Control Z. As you can tell, things just moved, which I don't like. So we're going to have to fix this, because if you can see, when I got rid of this section, this 3.5 collapsed. So let's see if we can trim some other things that aren't going to cause problems. Trim that away and that away. Life is good. We might keep this as for construction only. Let's trim this out. Okay. And at this point, this line and this line need to go away. The way this was constructed and the way that they told us geometry-wise how to make this, SolidWorks doesn't like the way we have this. I think we can tie the center of this circle to the location to the origin, which should keep that from moving, and then the location of this circle relative to the origin, which will also keep that from moving. So these are not for modeling. This is to keep our sketch from falling apart. We're going to click the circle and the origin, and we're just going to drop this down. We're going to press enter. You might be asking yourself, well, there's 2 dimensions here and they're the same. And you're correct. But this dimension was from this line. And then we went to this line. We went from the circle to here. So in essence, this is speaking to the line, where the other one was now speaking to the circle. So we can click on that blue line now. Let's switch to select. Right click, white arrow, select. Click this one. I'm going to press delete. It's not needed anymore. So now we're going from the circle to the origin. Now we're happy. Okay, at this point, our geometry is correct. That was a little tricky, and you got a chance to see my thought process. And I've been doing this for many years, and no matter what, I don't have the right idea in mind all the time. Okay, so we're going to exit out by clicking the purple arrow, or blue arrow on your build. We're going to go up 0.37. 0.37 in the property manager. This is called the property manager. Properties of that feature. We're managing it. We're going to say OK. And now we have the base of our part. Right? We just need to do the boss. And that's why they call this a base boss or a boss base operation, because it's one or the other. The base is the first part that you create your model that everything else is based off of. It's pretty literal. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, imagine rectangular pieces sticking out, and then we're going to round the corners to the radius of 0.75, and then from the center we're going to drill a hole at 0.5. It says 3 holes because there's one here, here, and here. We'll figure out where the center of this is located later. So let's take care of these 2 because they're both the same. We're going to be creating what they call fillets today, and that's a new feature that you haven't used yet if you're following the progression of assignments. Okay. So as you can see, I'm going to have 1.37 plus 0.75 to bring me up to this point. Right? Radius is from the center to the edge, and this is going from the bottom up to this point. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to extrude boss base, click the top surface, rectangles, snapping to the top corners, here, out. No particular size right now. We're going to smart dimension these. Snap, snap. Smart dimension. They're 0.37 in width. 0.37. And 0.37. And in terms of the other dimension, it's 1.5. And let me explain how I figured this out, because I don't see 1.5. But as I said, the radius is from the center to the edge. So the diameter, which has tangent points to here, meaning the curve just touches this vertical line, we're at 0.75 times 2. So 1.5. 1.5. And 1.5. We're doing two pieces of this model in one sketch. We could do one and then leave and then do the other, but this is more efficient. Okay, so these are in both location. Bump this out. And the height is 1.37 plus 0.75. Those numbers, once again, come from 1.37 to the center, and then from the center to the edge is the radius. That's that value here, 0.75. So we're at 212, or 2.12. Press enter. Okay, let's do the fillet operation. The fillet operation is going to take advantage of this 0.75 radius. That's going to create our curves. We're going to do it to 4 points, 4 edges. This edge and the other corners. So we're going to click fillet. Right here you're going to put in a radius value because it's showing you right here, radius 0.75. Press tab. It'll lock that value in. Click. As you can see, let's make sure full preview is on. Partial will only show you 1 of 4. We want to see the whole thing happen. I am confused as to why this is pointy and this is perfect. Something tells me that this is not the right width. I thought I put in 1.5, maybe I didn't. So I'm going to press X and let's fix this problem. This is a real scenario that's occurring, and this will happen to you many times when you start working independently. Click the X. Let's open up our Extrude Boss base that has the numbers in it, and I can see the problem already. 1.25, 1.5. Let's double click this number. 1.5. Press enter, it will fix your problem. If it doesn't, click the traffic light and it'll update. I'm going to go into the sketch just so you know sometimes when you click these, the numbers don't show up. So we're going to open up the 3D feature that made that. We're going to click on the 2D sketch that's inside, and when you click it, notice the box of other options that appear. Top left choice will let you edit. Now you're back in the sketch. Double click, 1.5, enter, confirm with the purple. We're back to where we need to be. Okay, that was the long roundabout way. However, some of you, when you click on these, do not have numbers that appear, so that's how you have to do it. Okay, fillet, back to where we were doing. Radius, 0.75, 1, 2. See that perfect curve? I expected to see that. I did not expect to see that point on the last time we went through this. Perfect, right? Full preview is on. If I do partial, you get that. Full is what you want. Say OK. We're almost done. We just need to place 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. So let's do these two, because one can put a hole through all of it. That's the benefit of through all. Extrude cut, side, draw a circle. I'm going to touch the center point. Just touch it. I'm not going to click. I'm going to bring my mouse down, and there's another center. And I see the icons. I'm going to click and click. Smart dimension this. 0.5. Enter. And I see that my circle is black because I snapped to the center of this circle. And this circle happens to be tied to this, which is tied to that, which is tied to the origin. So if you have a black circle, we're good. If you don't, you want to click the bottom edge to the circle and call out your values. Obviously, we aren't going to do that. Because my values are locked to the center of this part. Okay? So at that point, we are going to extrude out. I'm identifying a problem. I think these posts are too tall. We'll talk about how to fix that later. Confirm out. Change this to through all, meaning no matter how wide this part is made, we can cut straight through it without any number. There. Okay? When I made these, I found the error. I made an error. These are too tall. That 2.12, that should be the total height from the bottom of here, not starting at this corner or that point. So that 2.12 should be from here to the top, not from this point to the top. So these are too tall. And I noticed that when I just made those circles. So I'm going to go and modify this. I know how much it's over because what I forgot to take into effect was this 0.37 needs to be removed from that dimension. So I'm just going to click on this boss extrude that controls both of these. I'm going to take this number, and this is how easy this is to subtract something. Just minus 0.37 of whatever it was to that. I'm going to click the traffic light. It just got a little shorter, a little stubbier, and that's exactly what it needs to look like. Minus this fillet here, and there's a radius 0.37. Now this is a mechanical part to hold something. The reason why these are put in is to provide strength of the part. This would be a weak point if there wasn't a fillet here. It could crack based on stress. And that is why that's placed there. Now there's another radius call out right here, 0.37. Let's do fillet. It's going to remember my 0.37 from the previous. Zoom in, click, and our part, I believe, is complete. Nope, no it's not. Spoke too soon. We have that one hole to place right on this surface. We're going to extrude cut and click on the surface. Let's look straight down at the top of it. Hit the space bar. Let's draw a center line. It's nice to know where the center is of things, specifically because this part has a hole in the center. Circle somewhere on that center line. Smart dimension. It's on center with this other circle. The other circle is centered based on its radius value, so it's 0.75. As you can see, that circle and this circle is exactly in the center. So that's a 0.75 radius. It brings you to the center, which lines up with this one. Purple arrow, we're going to through all, not even put a measurement to it. And this part now is complete. The next video is going to go over how to create a drawing for this part so that it could be made in any other application, whether it's on a tool and die station, a CNC machine, or whatnot. So we're going to save this in your G drive, and this is called Actuator Base, ACTUATOR _ BASE, Actuator Base. Save. Okay, thank you for sticking with me if you are still listening.